Hello and welcome back. Today's Wednesday. It's kind of the turning point in our work week, and it's actually going to be also a bit of a turning point in these devotionals as well. Um, the previous 2 days, I've spoken about Jesus' power and knowledge and his desire to save us. Um, I want to shift the burden a little bit this week, and today I want to talk about Jesus's offer to save us and what our response to be should be to this offer. So today I want to look at another healing miracle. This is the healing at the pools of Bethesda, and there's a very important point that I want to take out of this, and that we're going to focus on today. So I'm going to go ahead and start reading in John chapter 5. Go ahead and follow along in your Bibles if you have them. This is starting at verse 1. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, of blind, halt, withered, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool, and troubled the water. Whosoever then first after the troubling of the water stepped in was made whole of whatsoever disease he had. And a certain man was there which had an infirmity 38 years. When Jesus saw him lie, and knew that he had been now a long time in that case, he said unto him, Wilt thou be made whole? The impotent man answered him, Sir, I have no man when the pool is troubled to put me into the pool. But while I am coming, another steppeth down before me. Jesus said unto him, Rise, take up thy bed, and walk. And immediately the man was made whole, and took up his bed and walked. And on the same day was the Sabbath. So there's some interesting stuff that happens here, but what I want to focus on is this question that Jesus poses to the man: Wilt thou be made whole? It's a very important point. I want to read verses 5 and 6 again, and we can kind of see why Jesus asked this question. It says in verse 5, And a certain man was there which had an infirmity 38 years. So this man was there for 38 years and was waiting for these waters to be troubled and so that he could get in. And Jesus asked him this question. When Jesus saw him lie and knew he had been now a long time in that case. So Jesus is recognizing that this man has been there for a good long while. And so because of Jesus saying he's been there for so long, he asks him, Wilt thou be made whole? Now, you can also see something really important in the man's response. I don't think the man totally understands what is going on here. The impotent man answered him, Sir, I have no man when the water is troubled to put me into the pool, but while I am coming, another steppeth down before me. So this man here, when Jesus asks, wilt thou be made whole? Will you be healed? Do you want this? The man responds with, I have no one to put me into these pools. He's talking to Jesus here. You see, that's not the question that Jesus asked. Jesus asked, will you be made whole? Not, why haven't you been able to get into these pools? But the man is so focused on what he perceives as the method by which he would be healed, by what he perceives as the cure for his life. He's so focused on that, he's been focused on that for the last 38 years, that he doesn't realize that the cure is standing right in front of him. See, this man doesn't realize that it's Jesus standing in front of him offering to make him whole. Will you be made whole? Jesus says to this man, rise, take up thy bed and walk. Immediately the man gets up. It says in verse 9, immediately the man was made whole, took up his bed and walked, and on the same day was the Sabbath. So this is such an interesting situation here, because if you think about the situation that this man is in, he is stuck in this hopeless situation. He's waiting for his circumstances to change. He's waiting for someone to help him get into this pool. See, he in his head, he knows what is going to fix his life. In his head, he knows this. And he doesn't, he's got this tunnel vision on what is going to fix his life that he doesn't realize that Jesus is standing in front of him. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like that where things seem grim and we think we know what's going to fix our situation. We think we know what's going to do it for us. And then we forget to turn to God. And I'm speaking as a child of God already. Even after we're saved, we sometimes forget to turn to God in hard times. And if you're not saved, you're focused on whatever the next thing is that's going to make your life better. But Jesus is always standing there saying, wilt thou be made whole? Do you want your life to be better? Really? You know, there's something in psychology. I remember when my wife was learning in psychology, one of the worst things that you could do to people is introduce change into their life. Change is typically a negative thing to human beings. We have a hard time coping with change, even when change is possibly going to be good. You see, even when we have the worst injuries, our bodies can adapt to pain. Your body can release a natural form of morphine, and it just, it can numb whatever pain is there. If you break your leg, eventually that pain is going to stop, even while the leg is still broken. And what I'm saying here is sometimes we can get comfortable in our pain. It sounds kind of morbid, but sometimes we stick with what we know. And before you're saved, that's what we're doing. Sin is a condition. Sin is pain in our lives. We're hurting ourselves when we're living in sin. But it's what we know. Someone once told me that living in sin is the most comfortable jail cell that you'll ever be in. And the door is wide open on that jail cell until a certain point when it slams shut, and then it's not so comfortable anymore. Jesus is there offering a way out. It's not the way out that we always think it's going to be, but Jesus is there offering that way. We need to not be so focused on what we think is the cure for our lives, what we think is going to help our lives, but we need to turn to God and trust in what He says is the cure for our lives. And that's Jesus Christ. You see, a lot of times we can be so focused on the things around us that we don't realize that Jesus is right there in front of us saying, wilt thou be made whole? So, this is what I want to leave you with today is this question that Jesus asked this man, wilt thou be made whole? Will you be healed? Do you want this? That's a question that we all have to ask ourselves, whether we're saved and we need to get our lives right, or whether we're not saved and we need to accept Jesus into our lives. Jesus is there asking us, will you be made whole?